face gives off, we removed some ductwork and some plastics from the front. And if you don't have the radiators, you don't have to do these steps, but because this car has the auxiliary radiators, we have to remove the auxiliary radiator from the driver's side of the car. And that's what we're working on. Tear down here. The next thing we need to do is we need to focus on the crank pulley. We got to make some changes there. Let me reposition the camera. Okay, so we need to add a pulley to the front of the harmonic balancer, and we really don't have a lot of room between the pulley and the fan shroud. I have a small impact that's pretty stout and pretty strong. This guy, meant for fitting in tight spaces. I actually use this to change the harmonic balancers on Corvettes, but it just doesn't have the snot to break this free. The crank bolt on this LT motor is torqued down to 240 foot-pounds. So I need a stronger gun. I have a bigger gun, but I need more room. So we're gonna start by just pulling out the fan shroud and the fan and seeing if that'll give us enough room, or if we have to go deeper and get the whole radiator out. Let's start with getting the shroud out. To install our crank pulley. This is a really awesome kit. It gives you a separate pulley just to drive the power out. I'm used to the Corvette world where we have to drive everything off the one main belt because the steering rack is directly in front of the crank, and so you just always get a lot of belt stretch and slip, and the power adders are always limited in their capacity because of this. But whenever you have a dedicated pulley, things just live a lot better in a boosted world. The LT motors have keyed shafts on the crank, so there's no need to drill and pin the crank like there was with the older LS engines. But this pulley just sits on the front, only held on by the bolt really. So there needs to be a way to lock this out from turning under load. And what Procharger gives you, or what comes with the kit, is these 6 perimeter bolts and these offset drilled spacers that they're calling a cam lock. I've already set Loctite on all my bolts. It says to use blue Loctite. I'm using red Loctite. And it says to set them all in until there's just a little bit of drag. All the balancers on LS and LT have 3 spokes on them, and so what these are going to do is, I don't know, once these are on, I'm going to line these up in a special way that it'll go on, and then these, as I spin the bolts, these will tighten up and lock against the 3 spokes, and effectively these will keep this pulley from spinning under the load of the blower. It's there, and I'm installing it because that's what came with the kit. I don't know how I feel about this. Like it seems like a whole lot of little pieces that could come loose under load or flex or deflect. I don't know. This part of it doesn't seem so great. But I also noticed that the hub of this pulley has 2 holes in it. Great location, which I think would be a better idea to go with, but it's a brand new car, it's not mine, it's got 8,000 miles on it, so I don't think I'm gonna do that, but, and he's also only going to like 6 or 7 PSI boost, so there's no real need for it. But in the hub of this, do you see these 2 holes? Right in the hub? Okay. On the older LS engines, there was no key on the crankshaft. So the balancer under load would just spin. So whenever you'd install the power adder, if it was belt driven anyway, it would always come with one of these. We call this a drill and pin kit. It's a longer bolt and a jig. This jig has 2 little 1/4-inch holes. And the 1/4-inch holes are perfectly lined up, half on the balancer, half on the crank. So that when you drill a hole perfectly centered halfway through the crank and halfway through the balancer. And then you can take your jig off, it comes with a little 1/4-inch roll pin spacer that you just put in there, and then you put your bolt on, and now the crankshaft is keyed and it will not spin under load. This pulley has these 2 little holes in the hub. And to me, I understand and interpret that as I could probably drill and pin this to the crank pulley, and then it wouldn't slip that way, and I wouldn't have to worry about these 6 little cam lock aluminum pieces wanting to walk or come a little bit loose and allowing a little bit of deflection and slip that can ultimately be picked up by the knock sensors, right? If this is knocking around on the crankshaft, that's noise that's going to be translated to the knock sensor, and it's going to be translated as knock required and lost ignition time and lost power. Okay, so all these are on, and now we want to situate our cam locks so that they are 2 are close, 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 2 are close. And so now our 3. Now that the balancer is in and set up, we're free to put the fan shroud back in and get our hoses connected back up and bring us back to that point. And then we can start taking the next steps on getting the main bracket set up. Okay. Off screen, we put the radiator fan and shroud back in, and we connected our hoses and stuff like that. So to this point, we've taken the front fascia off, and we've put the front crank pulley on, and we've removed a radiator, and we've done some other stuff. But as per our instructions, this is the part where we begin the Procharger installation. Even though the first step of it is moving an AC line. But let's keep it going. wires and I've put them behind the first post on the main bracket. This way, as the power adder goes in, none of these wires can lay up against the housing of the bracket. And the ground wire that was at the bottom of the head, I attached to the head right there behind that little bracket. Alright, I'll put you back up here. And we'll get going again. Trying to get this power adder installed. This Supercharger comes with a remote mount oil line kit, so that we don't have a hard time changing the oil. These Sentry blowers require regular oil changes. Procharger has done something really cool, and there is an adjustment on the back side of this automatic tensioner that is a manual adjustment, and the tensioner is set in the middle position right now. Now the tensioners that come with these Prochargers are really cool. This one specifically has 3 bolts on the back side of the spring-loaded automatic tensioner that are from manual adjustment, and they come set in the middle position. So what we're going to do is we're going to mock up the belt, we're going to install the belt, and we're going to see how far the tensioner is open on the spring when we install it, and then we'll adjust. We'll take the belt back off. We'll take the belt back off, and we'll adjust the tensioner to make sure that the arm is completely open when the belt is on. There is so much load on that power adder when it starts making power that the belt just grows and grows and grows all the way until the tensioner completely unloads itself. So it's really important that the tensioner is at its fully extended range, just sitting there with the belt on, so it has the most room for the belt to grow under the load of the power adder. All right, back to it. I think a good modification to make right here, right now, would be to remove this. I know we got to have the bumper here for structural, for strength, and I would never ask to take that away. But I do think that the horizontals on top and bottom are given a lot more strength this way to an impact than these verticals. And I think that if we left the horizontals on plane and in place, and we just took away a large section of the verticals on the front and back sides, we could still have rigidity from an impact, but we could also have a bunch of airflow through this bumper. Or even if we had a channel down here, down low, and we had no access to come through the bumper to get fresh air this way, we could still take this bottom where it's square, and we could chop it and triangle it and make it an angle up, just so there's a better airstream coming in, so the whole top half of the intercooler can flow on the outside, get air to help cool it, instead of just having half of the intercooler actually working as an intercooler, you know what I mean? But that's not a part of the proper install, and this would add a great amount of time to the job, and it would modify a brand new car beyond what the install kit calls for. So the proper thing to do here is keep rocking on the kit and Procharger is pretty much installed. We just got to get it all back together. My own pro tip: with the headlight back installed, we should take the boost hose loose at the throttle body and at the intercooler and play with it until we find the least point of resistance where it passes around underneath the headlight, just so that under boost it doesn't try to break the plastic tabs off of the headlight over time. Arguably the most important step of any supercharger install is letting the world around you know what you're working with. And now we're ready to rock. So here we are at the end of the job. The Procharger kit is installed in our 2022 Camaro. The last step of this is we need to correct the tune file for the power adder. For those of us that have been around for a while, HP Tuners has had many different interfaces that they use. This is the first one that they used, the MPVI interface. I had the Pro version. This is the little green connector. This was the Pro, so you could plug in little sensors, just like on the Pro and the later ones. This is the MPVI 2. This brought on Bluetooth capabilities and had a little ProLink cable that connected in here to plug into the sensors. And then there was also, I don't have this one, but there was an MPVI 2 Plus that was pretty much the same as this, but it moved this ProLink connector to the back and it switched it to a round connector. And these are the two that I have. This, the MPVI 2, is the one that I use for everything, and when I try to plug it into the 2022 Camaro to do some data logging, I get an incredibly limited data stream. I only get to talk to, I only get to see like engine RPM and like commanded AFR, but I don't get to see what the actual oxygen sensors are doing or anything else. And so I wholly understand that this car is on the other side of the limitations of the MPVI 2 interface. I have the latest version of HP Tuners. In fact, I uploaded that before we started all of this. And it's okay on this car. This car, this Procharger kit comes to us with a tuner kit. So it comes with this, which actually, while it's orange and locked out from being a specific MPVI 3, this really is the MPVI 3 interface. It's the same houses, the same everything. It's a different color, and it's got Procharger logo on it, so I'm sure it's locked out. You can't do anything but use it for that. But it's a good size comparison. There they are, 2 and 3. At some point here, I will have to go, and probably shortly after this video is made, by the way, I will go to HP Tuners and I will upgrade and get the MPVI 3 so I can be on that as well. And here's the round connector I was saying for the 2 Plus. The 2 Plus moved this connector from the side, this shape, to this round connector on the back. The 2 Plus and the 3 kept the same orientation, location, and the same connector for that. So before we started this, what we did was we opened this up, we connected this to the car, we pulled the tune file out, and we sent that to Procharger. Procharger modified it, and they've already sent it back to us. So hopefully right now we should just be loading this in, and we should be ready to go. This is actually the first time I've done this with a cell phone. I've always used laptops. Awesome! And apparently it says we're done. Shifted to park. And I'll go ahead and start it while I got you here. Always, after you write with GM, any GM newer car, after you rewrite it, the first time you hit the start button, it does that. It cranks for a split second and then stops, and you got to hit it again. Second time, always crank. Here's the lower line. Time to go for a ride. This is our road in front of us, and these are our gauges. We're done with this. It's can tune. We didn't do